Well, what we just did in our last lesson is we recorded a macro to show the private worksheets, but we only recorded it to show Dave's sheet. And now we're going to go into Visual Basic and edit that to show the other worksheets. Now what came up here, we're now in the Visual Basic environment, and this can look pretty intimidating. You got a lot of stuff going on here. Don't worry about a lot of it. We're going to cover it as we go through these courses. For now, I want you to focus on this window over here to the right, and we're going to call that the code window. Now, you may not know what everything is, but what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out what Excel did when it recorded that macro. So first thing let's do is look and see if we can find where it is. Well, we called our macro the Show Private Worksheets. So if I look in here in this code window, I see a line that says Sub Show Private Worksheets. Sub is just the type of routine it is, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But Show Private Worksheets, that's our macro we want to modify. And down here you see End Sub, that's the end of it. Well, even though we don't know VBA yet, let's go down here and look what it did. On this line here, it says Sheets Private Information Dave dot visible equals true. Well, if I was just looking at that, that might make me think that, hey, it's taking the worksheet Private Information Dave and it's making it visible. It's setting that value of visible to true. So we could probably do the same thing with the other worksheets. So let's try that. Let's go over here to the end of that line and let's insert a few blank rows. And now we're just going to copy this entire line of code. I'll highlight the whole line and I'll right click to do copy. Come down to the next line, paste it, and I'll just use Control V to paste it a couple more times. Oops. Now I pasted it 3 more times because I know that we have 4 worksheets that we want to look at, and so we have to do it 4 times. Now all of these right now look like they're just going to show Dave's worksheet. Well, what we can do is we can modify each of these lines to show the other worksheets. So the second line here, Private Information Dave, let's make that Barbara sheet. We just happen to have a reference of the sheet names over in the upper left in the Object Explorer. We'll talk about that later, but we can use that for the name. Type Barbara's name. And the third one, we'll have that be Jack. And the last one, we'll have it be Sue. Okay? This last line says Sheets Private Information Dave dot select. That's just going to select the Dave sheet, so we can leave that alone. Well, now we've modified our macro so that it will indeed show all of the worksheets that we had in the other one. Let's go see if it works. For that, we have to get back to Excel. We can go up here and click the View Microsoft Excel button to get back to Excel. And now let's go to our macros, and we'll view the macros. And now we want to run the Show Private Worksheets macro. Let's click Run, and you see it showed them all. Now I've got Dave, Barbara, Jack, and Sue. So let's try those a couple more times. Let's click Macro, View Macros, Hide Private Worksheets. We'll run that, and it hit them all. Kind of want to get them back. Show Private Worksheets. So in these 2 lessons, we've seen some of the basics of how to create a simple macro. We started just by recording a macro to do some simple formatting. And then we went on to the next step to do something a little more interesting. We recorded a macro that hid some worksheets. And then we recorded a macro that showed one worksheet and went and got into the VBA editor to modify it to show the other 3. That's something we're going to do on and on as we learn VBA. If we don't know how to do something, the best way is just to start with the recorder, get the basic commands and structure, and then we can go modify it and change it, make it work how we want it to. So that'll about wrap it up for recording of macros. Let's move on to the next section.